Hello Army, welcome back to my channel. If you've been following our previous coverage of everything happening during BTS's historic return to MetLifeStadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, then get ready, because today we're diving into a specific piece of coverage from Billboard, one of the most respected and influential music publications in the entire industry, that's given us a genuinely fascinating detailed breakdown of the best moments from this show. And within that comprehensive list, one particular moment involving Jimin stood out enough to earn its own dedicated mention. Let's talk through exactly what happened, why Billboard specifically singled out this moment, and what it tells us about where Jimin currently stands as a performer within this incredible comeback era. So let's start with the full context of Billboard's coverage, because understanding the scope of what they were reviewing helps illustrate just how significant it is that this specific Jimin moment stood out among everything else happening that night. Billboard published a detailed piece titled BTS Return to MetLifeStadium with a full Arirang World Tour show, breaking down 15 of their favorite moments from the first night of this historic two-show run at the venue. This wasn't some quick, surface-level concert review. This was a comprehensive, detailed breakdown covering everything from the pre-show atmosphere, to specific song performances, to individual member highlights throughout what was described as a nearly 2.5-hour show. Let's talk about the broader context Billboard set up before getting into the specific moment we're focusing on today. Their coverage specifically noted that this show arrived less than 2 weeks after BTS's already historic performance at the FIFA World Cup final halftime show, which took place at this exact same venue. Billboard described that World Cup performance as an all-too-short flex of the group's showmanship, and specifically noted that this MetLifeStadium concert gave fans the chance to see what the group could really do with a full 2.5 hours, rather than just the brief 11-minute window they had during that halftime show. Let's get into the specific detail that brings us to today's video. Within their comprehensive breakdown of the show's best moments, Billboard specifically discussed the group's choreography throughout the performance, noting that HYB chairman and founder Bang Si-hyuk had previously told Billboard that he'd actually encouraged BTS to ease up on their famously intense choreography for this particular tour. But despite that guidance toward a somewhat less demanding performance style, Billboard specifically noted that the songs that did include their full, original choreography routines ended up being among the crowd's absolute favorites throughout the entire show. And here's the specific moment that earned Jimin his own dedicated mention within Billboard's coverage. According to their write-up, the group pulling out the full stage routine for the first half of their 2017 hit Mic Drop earned a genuinely huge reaction from the crowd, and Billboard specifically called out that this reaction was especially pronounced when Jimin was at the center, leading the group choreography during the chorus. Let's really sit with that specific detail for a moment, because it's genuinely significant that, out of everything happening during this comprehensive, high-energy show, Billboard's writers specifically singled out this exact moment, Jimin positioned at the center of the stage, leading his 6 bandmates through this iconic choreography, as one of the standout highlights worth specifically documenting in their coverage. Let's think about why this particular moment resonated so strongly with both the audience in attendance and the professional journalists covering the show. Mic Drop itself already carries significant weight within BTS's broader discography. Released back in 2017, it became one of the group's most beloved and recognizable hits, eventually earning RIAA Platinum certification here in the United States. It's the kind of song that, even years after its original release, still generates that instant recognition and excitement from crowds the moment those opening notes hit, precisely because it's so deeply woven into the collective memory of BTS's journey and the broader ARMY experience of following this group over the years. Let's talk about what makes a moment like this, Jimin specifically leading the choreography during the chorus, stand out enough to earn this kind of specific journalistic attention. Throughout BTS's performances, choreography is typically executed as a unified group effort, with all 7 members moving in careful synchronization. But within that broader group choreography, there are often specific moments and formations where individual members are positioned more prominently, whether that's at the center of the stage, in front of their bandmates, or in some other visually prominent position that naturally draws the audience's eye toward them specifically during that particular section of the performance. Having Jimin positioned in that exact prominent, center stage role during the chorus of Mic Drop, actively leading the group's execution of that iconic choreography, represents exactly the kind of moment that tends to generate this level of crowd reaction and subsequent media attention. It's not just about being visible during a group performance. It's about being specifically positioned as the visual anchor point for one of the most recognizable, beloved segments of an already historic song within the group's catalog. Let's also touch on the broader context of Billboard's observation about BTS's ability to execute this kind of choreography so smoothly and fluidly, even years into their career and following that extended military service hiatus. Billboard specifically noted that the group's ability to pull off their stage routines so easily and fluidly demonstrates exactly why they remain at the top of the game today. Within that broader observation about the group's continued performance excellence, singling out Jimin's specific leadership during this mic drop moment serves as a genuinely concrete, specific example supporting that larger point about the group's continued mastery of live performance, even after everything they've experienced throughout their extended hiatus period. Let's think about the significance of this moment within the broader context of everything else happening during this particular show, because Billboard's coverage documented an incredibly packed, comprehensive performance. We're talking about a show that included a pre-performance segment featuring traditional Korean instrumental music, paired with striking black, white, and gray visual artwork across the stadium's massive 360-degree LED screen setup. We're talking about a setlist that drew heavily from the current Arirang album while also weaving in beloved classics throughout the group's entire catalog. Within that incredibly dense, comprehensive 2.5-hour show, packed with countless individually memorable moments, the fact that this specific Jimin-led mic drop moment still managed to stand out enough to earn its own dedicated mention in Billboard's 15 Best Moments list speaks volumes about just how genuinely impactful and memorable this particular segment of the performance actually was. Let's also spend some time thinking about the historical significance of mic drop specifically returning to setlists during this current touring era, given everything we know about how this tour has generally balanced newer Arirang material against career-spanning classics. Billboard's coverage noted that night one of this MetLifeStadium run was primarily an Arirang showcase, but that classic hits and fan favorites were woven throughout as well. Having a song like Mic Drop specifically included, and specifically performed with its full, complete original choreography rather than some simplified or modified version, represents this genuinely meaningful callback to an earlier, foundational era of the group's career, one that clearly still resonates deeply with both longtime fans and, based on Billboard's own reaction, professional music journalists covering the show as well. Let's think about what this specific moment tells us about Jimin's continued individual standing within the broader group dynamic, particularly at this specific point in BTS's career trajectory. We've discussed extensively throughout this entire comeback year just how many different individual milestones and moments of recognition he's accumulated, from his World Cup performance, to various brand partnerships, to industry recognition across completely different sectors. This Billboard mention adds another genuinely significant data point to that broader pattern, specifically within the context of live performance and choreographic leadership, an area that speaks directly to his fundamental skills and reputation as one of BTS's most consistently praised performers throughout the group's entire history together. Let's also touch on the broader significance of professional music journalism specifically documenting and celebrating these kinds of individual performance highlights within the context of a group show. Publications like Billboard maintain genuinely high editorial standards when it comes to what specific moments and details they choose to highlight within their concert coverage. The fact that their writers specifically identified this particular Jimin-led moment is worth calling out by name, rather than simply discussing the group's overall choreography and performance quality in more general terms, represents a genuinely meaningful piece of professional validation regarding his specific individual contribution to this particular section of the show. Let's think about the broader emotional significance this kind of moment likely carries for fans watching this comeback era unfold, particularly given everything we've discussed regarding the group's journey through military service and back to this level of stadium touring. Watching Jimin specifically lead his bandmates through this beloved, iconic choreography, in front of a massive, sold-out MetLifeStadium crowd, generating exactly this kind of enthusiastic audience response that then gets specifically documented by major music journalism outlets, represents this genuinely powerful full-circle moment within the broader story of this group's return to this level of performance excellence following their extended hiatus. Let's also spend some time discussing the specific choreographic elements that likely made this mic drop performance segment so visually and energetically compelling for the crowd watching. Mic Drop's choreography, particularly during its chorus sections, is known for its sharp, aggressive, confidence-projecting movements, built around the song's overall theme of triumphant success and validation. having Jimin specifically positioned at the center of that choreography, leading his bandmates through those sharp, deliberate movements during the chorus, likely created exactly the kind of visually striking, energetically compelling moment that would naturally draw both audience excitement and professional journalistic attention. Let's think about how this specific detail fits within the broader pattern of career-spanning performance moments that this current tour has generally sought to celebrate, blending the group's current era material with meaningful nods back to earlier, foundational moments throughout their extensive discography. Including mic drop specifically, and giving it this full, complete choreographic treatment rather than some abbreviated or simplified version, represents a deliberate choice to fully honor and celebrate this particular piece of the group's history, and having Jimin specifically lead that particular moment adds this additional layer of individual performance excellence to what was already a meaningful nod to the group's earlier career. Let's also touch on the broader significance of this specific mention within the context of everything else Billboard's comprehensive coverage discussed throughout their 15 Best Moments breakdown. Beyond this specific mic drop moment, their coverage also touched on things like the group's performance of FYA, which they described as mashing together a Jersey Club-inspired cut with their intense 2016 single Fire, creating such a hot and heavy performance that it generated a noticeable physical reaction throughout the stadium, with fans shaking and stomping along in response. They also specifically discussed Jimin's hair transformation for this particular show, noting his shift toward that striking gray-toned color we discussed extensively in a previous video, describing it as giving him a classic princely aura throughout the performance. Let's think about the cumulative significance of Jimin receiving multiple separate mentions throughout this single piece of Billboard coverage, beyond just this specific mic drop moment we're focusing on today. Having his choreographic leadership specifically highlighted, alongside separate commentary regarding his visual presentation and hairstyling for this particular show, suggests that Billboard's writers found multiple distinct aspects of his individual contribution to this performance worth specifically documenting and celebrating within their broader coverage of this historic tour stop. Let's also spend some time thinking about what this level of detailed, positive individual coverage from a publication like Billboard might mean for how Jimin continues to be perceived within broader American music journalism and mainstream entertainment coverage moving forward. Given everything we've discussed throughout this entire comeback year regarding his continued individual recognition across multiple completely different industries and contexts, this kind of specific, detailed praise from one of the most respected and influential names in American music journalism represents another genuinely significant data point supporting that broader narrative of sustained, multifaceted individual relevance and critical recognition. Let's think about the broader context of BTS's overall performance quality throughout this specific MetLifeStadium stop, because Billboard's coverage painted a picture of a group performing at genuinely peak form, even years into their career and following that extended hiatus period. Their observation that the group's ability to execute this kind of choreography so easily and fluidly demonstrates why they remain at the top of the game today speaks to a level of sustained excellence that extends well beyond just this single mic drop moment, even as that specific segment, and Jimin's leadership within it, earned its own particularly notable mention. Let's also touch on the significance of this moment specifically occurring during a song choice that represents such a beloved, foundational piece of BTS's earlier career, rather than during one of the newer era tracks that dominated the majority of this particular show's setlist. There's something genuinely meaningful about a moment from the group's earlier catalog specifically generating this kind of standout crowd reaction and subsequent journalistic attention, even within a show primarily built around promoting and celebrating their current comeback era material. It speaks to the enduring power and continued relevance of these earlier hits, and to Jimin's continued ability to bring genuine excitement and energy to material that's been part of the group's repertoire for years at this point. Let's think about what this specific piece of Billboard coverage might mean for how future setlists and choreographic choices get approached throughout the remainder of this extensive touring cycle. Given how positively this specific mic drop moment was received, both by the live audience and by professional journalists covering the show, it wouldn't be surprising if this particular song, and this specific choreographic arrangement featuring Jimin's central leadership role, continues to be featured throughout additional stops on this tour, given just how effectively it seems to resonate with audiences across this current touring cycle. Let's also spend some time discussing the broader significance of professional music criticism and journalism specifically continuing to engage this deeply and thoughtfully with K-pop performances at this level of detail and nuance. Having a publication like Billboard produce this kind of comprehensive, detailed breakdown of specific performance moments, rather than simply offering a more general, surface-level review of the show, represents part of a broader, ongoing shift in how mainstream American music journalism has increasingly engaged with and taken seriously K-pop as a genuine subject worthy of this level of detailed, thoughtful critical attention. Let's think about the broader cumulative significance of everything we've discussed throughout this entire comeback year regarding Jimin's individual recognition and cultural relevance, and how this specific Billboard mention fits within that larger, ongoing pattern. From his World Cup performance, to his various brand partnerships, to his continued industry recognition across multiple sectors, to now this specific, detailed praise from one of America's most respected music publications regarding his choreographic leadership during a beloved classic hit, each of these individual data points continues building toward this increasingly comprehensive picture of sustained, multifaceted relevance and recognition that extends across virtually every measure one could imagine within the modern entertainment industry. Let's wrap up by recapping everything we've discussed today regarding this specific piece of Billboard coverage and the particular Jimin moment it highlighted. During BTS's historic return to MetLifeStadium, as part of their comprehensive 15 Best Moments breakdown of the show, Billboard specifically called out the group's performance of their 2017 hit Mic Drop, noting that the crowd's reaction was especially huge when Jimin was positioned at the center of the stage, leading his bandmates through the full, original choreography during the song's chorus. This specific mention arrived alongside separate commentary throughout Billboard's coverage regarding his striking new hair color for this particular show, together representing multiple distinct instances of individual recognition within this single piece of professional music journalism covering an already historic tour stop. This entire story really does illustrate something genuinely meaningful about Jimin's continued individual standing as a performer, even within the context of a full group show built around celebrating BTS's collective comeback and return to this level of stadium touring. Having his specific choreographic leadership singled out by name within a publication as respected and influential as Billboard represents genuine professional validation of his continued skill and impact as a live performer, adding yet another meaningful chapter to the broader story of individual recognition we've documented throughout this entire remarkable comeback year. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way through. If you enjoyed this breakdown of Billboard's specific coverage of Jimin's Mic Drop moment at MetLifeStadium, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update like this one in the future. Drop a comment down below letting me know what you thought about this specific moment, and if you were fortunate enough to be in attendance for either night of this historic MetLifeStadium run, I would genuinely love to hear about how this particular mic drop performance felt to experience live in person. As always, thank you for being here, thank you for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next video.